Awesome. So in this video, I'm going to be going over how to systemize any business process using the SCALE framework. Okay, the SCALE framework is a framework that we came up with inside of our company, the exact framework that has allowed us to replace over 6,000 manual tasks a year inside of our clients' businesses, as well as, this is the exact framework to how to automate and systemize any process of your own or for somebody else. Okay. So I've come up with this framework after working with hundreds of online service providers and other verticals and niches as well. A little bit of everything, just getting started out. And, after a year now, this is the exact framework that we use inside of our company to do so. Okay. So the first thing that we have, and these are in no particular order, are going to be systemize, consolidate, automate, leverage, and evaluate, as you can see here. All right, so that's SCALE. So this is going to be the entire process. So what does systemize mean? Okay, so let's take, for example, a client onboarding process. You have a hard time onboarding clients. You can't scale because you can't even take on more clients. Okay, so we'll use this framework for that. So the first thing we're going to do is document the current process. All right, what do we do to onboard a client from A to B inside of our company? All right, so we got to write that down. Then we have to build standard operating procedures for every task involved in documenting the process. So this will be more of like an instructional in second person description of how to actually go about completing the task. Then we're going to create a training or a Loom video of that SOP. And we're going to be able to create a process checklist with the current process, the SOPs, and the training videos for each SOP. Okay, so that allows us to create an entire process checklist to start off with before we head on to the next part of this. All right, for client onboarding. Next, we have consolidate. So we want to create assets and templates for our onboarding process. So an onboarding form, right, as well as an onboarding survey or a onboarding welcome email, onboarding video, script, onboarding, welcome video, onboarding, welcome email, etc. So we want to identify, based on the process, what are the assets that are going to be involved in systemizing them, and then we need to create them. All right, so we give our clients those assets inside of our program and our members inside of our program too. Next, we're going to want to create tracking sheets. So we're going to want to consolidate all of our data from automations and from our processes to tracking sheets that we have or that we set up for that specific process. For client onboarding, it could be like, number of clients onboarded, number of no-shows, number of booked calls, just like a tracking sheet for leads, but for your onboarding process and measuring those KPIs so that you can have success. Then we have a certain file structure, right? So if you have onboarding calls, you're going to need a folder, onboarding call recordings, onboarding call transcriptions, onboarding form submissions, onboarding assets, onboarding databases. You're going to need a file structure that is set and follows a naming convention. For example, so instant scalability / client onboarding form. So we can find everything and make everything super accessible for everybody. And we can also store our SOPs and our training inside of this file structure. So now we've systemized our process. Now we've identified the assets and consolidated the assets. And now we're going to automate that process. So you could assume you could also start here with the leverage aspect. It's just doesn't go from start to finish, but automate. So we're going to want to identify the areas of that automation of what we can even automate from looking at this checklist that's developed, right? So using our experience of Zapier, we can actually look at that process and say, oh, is this manual? Is this automated? Can I automate this? Even give it to ChatGPT now. It can tell you using the Zapier custom GPT. It'll be able to tell you. You just need a little bit of an overview on Zapier to make sure it's the right, automation. Or you can have around 10 to 20 to 25 pre-built automations for that process if you are a systems integrator, right? And we give those processes inside of our program. So you're going to want to map out the entire process, right? So using a visual tool like Lucidchart, or we also give our clients a no-code visualization tool that if you're in the program, about, right? So we're going to want to map out the manual and automated process, right? After we identify the areas of automation. And now we can map out like a flow chart of that process. And then now we can build the automations that we identified from that checklist we made over here. And we can do that using Zapier or make.com, whatever you use. All right. And then you're going to want to create documentation about the automation, very similar to here, like a Loom video or a training document or a resource for your company, or for, say you're integrating this into another company. You're going to want to be able to document how it works. All right. And that goes hand in hand with the mapping out of the process. And you can even attach the documentation to the mapping out of the process. Next thing is going to be leverage. So we need to apply leverage to this process by first identifying the current tools that are used in the tech stack. Can we add anything on to, those that SOP or the workflows by like understanding what tools we use, or what tools our client use and what we can integrate into it, as long as it's, makes sense and is valuable. And then we also need to identify the team members involved in the process so that we can actually properly delegate tasks on that checklist. As soon as the entire process is triggered, you onboard a client, we're going to want that entire checklist to delegate to a team member and apply leverage, to remove you from the onboarding process. That's specifically just for onboarding. And we do that with identifying what team members are involved in that process as well. And right. Next, we're going to set up any software tools we're missing, like a project management tool, a team communication tool, a CRM, anything that your client or your company is like missing. You're going to want to actually set it up for them or set it up yourself, and be able to provide documentation on how it works, and understanding how it works as well will be required for understanding how to automate an entire process. I mean, we're not rebuilding the wheel here, but we're not building like Rome overnight. Okay, so you will need to understand the different industry standard software tools. Next, we can actually use AI and leverage AI to document our operational system. So we can use ChatGPT, the Zapier GPT, Flowchart GPT. We can use those different systems to actually streamline, building the template for the automation in ChatGPT, or building the documentation right here, etc. So that's the different leverage that we can apply to this process. And then we have evaluate, right? So we can evaluate key performance indicators or metrics or track data, right? So we're going to want to identify this a little more advanced. I would recommend maybe not touching on if you're rather new, but don't overlook it. Identify any metrics or KPIs to track in that process, right, from the tracking sheets we talked about, so that you understand what is the best thing we can track. It's not hard. It's just zapping info to a Google sheet and then having a formula divide one value by another. Okay. Then we're going to want to implement any survey or feedback systems into our onboarding process, so our clients can give us feedback throughout that process that we can then use that feedback to make decisions. So we're going to need some type of assets as well to evaluate our current process, and how we can optimize in the future. And then we're going to want to finalize those tracking sheets, right? So we want to make sure they're set up, that they're hooked up to the automations, that we don't actually have to track our data every day manually. And like I had said, those KPI sheets that we give you and we give our clients are super valuable. Then from here, we're going to want to set up notifications for metrics. So you can do an automation to look up a row in that KPI sheet once a week or once a day, and send a team message with all of those metrics in a much easier to read format. So you don't even have to open up the KPI sheet, right? How amazing is that? So now that you've systemized, consolidated, automated, leveraged, and evaluated your entire client onboarding process, it should be completely systemized by following this framework, right? And if you are a systems integrator, then just remember that, because of all these variables, it's important to how you deliver this, transformation. Are you using the client's tools? Are you using their assets? Are they missing assets? Do they even have their process documented? So this entire framework actually solves the bottlenecks that we experience as, running an automation agency. And now, we run a systems integrations business. We're system integrators, right? So from here, you're going to want to do a little bit of elements of done for you, do it yourself, and done with you throughout that whole process that I went over in a previous video. So, this is the exact, way to systemize any business process using the Scale framework. I hope you like that. I put a lot of time into this. If you want us to set everything up for you, systemize all your processes for you, do everything for you, please book a call with myself and my team down below. or you can also just reach out to me, and we'll get in contact. And then here is a piece about, if you are a systems integrator, these are proven productized service offerings and verticals that you can apply for your offer. Or if you don't run a systems integrations business, you can literally just apply like focus points on these systems first in your business, and you can apply the scale framework. So yeah, you can apply this exact scale framework to each one of these systems inside of your business. So the hardest is going to be sales process. I would not recommend starting out with this, as there's inbound, outbound. You actually have to have experience with like generating revenue for clients and tracking like a lot of that that we said, which is kind of more well developed out stuff. I highly recommend all of you guys learn before you get to scaling. And so sales process is going to be like probably the hardest part to optimize first. So I have sales process videos if you want to go over those, and assets as well for that. But I would not recommend starting out with your sales process. Onboarding process is going to be a big one, big bottleneck, very easy place to start. Service fulfillment is going to be more like medium, hard level, because you're going to need to actually have every operating procedure for how you fulfill a service documented before even automating it. So after you're done usually doing the onboarding process, you can usually apply that same information to fulfillment. We also have like customer support, support forums and support systems, feedback, all that great stuff, and measuring KPIs with customer support, time to close a ticket, etc. Then we have this is going to be more advanced. So this is going to be entry level again, easy. This is going to be advanced. Team member hiring. You might not even be ready to hire. Your clients aren't. But you can imagine the hiring process is very similar to like a sales process, but just different assets involved. And then we also have team member onboarding, right? So very similar to client onboarding, but it will require you to have a knowledge of working with larger companies or being at the point where you have, enough clients and enough internal systems to even start hiring team members. And then we also have like accounting and finances. So like revenue KPIs, as well as like bookkeeping, all that stuff. This is also a very hard vertical if you have not taken any type of finance class or understand like a income sheet balance or a balance sheet, income statement, stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily touch this yet, but if you can master every single one of these elements and processes inside of your business using the scale framework, then you will be set. Okay. But I would start off with one by one. And if you're running this as a business as well, and you're in our program for that, then I would recommend picking one and mastering one, and then ending up offering other kind of pre-built infrastructures for the other systems. But you can imagine for like a roofing company versus like a financial advisor versus a coach, like they're all going to have a different onboarding process. So if you want to, increase like your services and invest more into being able to help your clients and scale, you're probably going to have to, niche down, right? So you could have an onboarding form that's generic for every business you take on, but then you have to like go through it with them and they have to change it, right? Or you have to spend time, someone on your team, hyper personalizing it for them. Instead, if you focus on one niche, you could already have like a proven onboarding form that doesn't change, and you're the expert. You've been in that niche, in that vertical. So it's important to note that these are the processes involved in your business. Majority of the time, might be missing a few, but this is the most common, processes that we help businesses scale with, and we help our clients save time on. And I definitely thought it was, valuable to go over that inside of this training as well. So do remember, scale, systemize, consolidate, automate, leverage, evaluate. Do not let this leave your brain. Go to bed dreaming about this. This is what is going to allow you to get to that next level inside of your company. But yeah, if you need any help, just let me know. If you are a private client of ours, just reach out to our one-on-one Slack channel if you need any support. If you're just watching this from another place or another source, and you are interested in having us work with you, you can book a call below, or you can actually join our do-it-yourself, done-with-you program to do all of this and implement all of this yourself. Thank you so much for your time, and I spent a lot of time on this. Hopefully you guys took some notes.